camping, and outdoor education. By the way, I think many of you would have realized most of the things that you see me presenting are actually based on my experience, my own research, okay? Some are from the Pathfinder Staff Training, but over the years, I've learned to do things on my own. What I felt are the most important things, which are practical, and so I hope you have been blessed by them. Okay, so let me now talk about camping. Let me first of all say camping has got a great tradition. You can see this picture is more than 100 years old, okay, of people who really enjoy camping. Camping is an activity that has been passed down from generation to generation, and this is no kidding. No kidding. Many people who first camp as children now camp as parents or even as grandparents, right? And therefore passing on an appreciation for the great outdoors. So this is why Pathfinder also really enjoy camping. In fact, I will tell you this, camping is a vital and integral part of the Pathfinder Club program. Being at the doorsteps of nature can be a very enriching experience for the Pathfinder. At this moment, let me stop here and tell you something. It was in 1974, at the very first Southeast Asia Union Pathfinder Camporee in Phuket, Thailand. I was only 18 years old, not even baptized yet. And that was my first time traveling to Thailand, first time attending an international union-wide Pathfinder program where there were 4 countries present, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and Vietnam. And this was before Vietnam fell to the communists, 1974. In 1975, Vietnam fell to the communists. And I will tell you that Camporee changed my life totally. I am so grateful I attended that Camporee, because that Camporee in Phuket in December of 1974, you can imagine how long that was ago, 40 plus years ago, where I made 2 major decisions. One, to be baptized, and true enough, within 2 weeks upon my return, I was baptized because I already been attending church, but that sealed my decision. And 2, I committed myself to serve the Lord, which is why 2 days after I was baptized, I traveled down all the way to Singapore to commence theological study. And so today, what you're seeing is the outcome of a Camporee that changed my life. And I will testify from my personal experience as well as the testimonies of all those people I heard that camping can do wonders. And that's why I will spend quite a bit of time developing on this topic, all right? All right. I want you to look at what Henry David Thoreau Walden, an American essayist who write a lot of essay, poet, and philosopher said. I went to the woods. Now, woods refers to the forest or jungle, or the wilderness, because I wish to live deliberately to front, that means to confront only the essential facts of life. What he is saying is that when you live in a city, you live in a very artificial area, very artificial environment where you don't even experience true living or understand the true meaning of life. And so that's why he said, I deliberately went to the woods so that I can live deliberately, purposefully, to confront what are the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach. That definitely there's something it can teach, and not when I come to die, to discover that I have not lived. That would be tragic, you know. So he wants to go back to the basic, back to nature, to learn the true meaning of life. I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear. Nor did I wish, he said, to practice resignation, to resign and say, you know, unless it was quite necessary. No, I'm not going to surrender. And then he said, I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. To live so sturdily and Spartan, like that means, Spartan means to rough it out, to live frugal and very tough, you know, as to put to rout all that was not life. I'm going to kick away everything that is not life, to get back to the essential of life, to cut a broad swath and shave close to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest term. In other words, to come back to what life is all about. And this is what camping and spending time in the outdoors can do for us, to reorientate us as to the true nature of life, why we are here, and what life is all about. All right. So right now, I'm going to talk to you about 7 reasons why we bring Pathfinders camping. 7 good reasons, and I hope you can remember all 7 of them. Number 1 is to explore nature. Yes, nature is a huge, huge classroom. It's a huge classroom, right? Pathfinder get to see the beauty of nature, and I tell you, I have been to some very beautiful, scenic wonders. I thank God I have seen the beautiful Niagara Falls in Canada. I thank God I've seen the Victoria Falls in, let me see, this is in Zimbabwe, you know, and last year I saw the beautiful waterfalls in India. I can't remember the name of the place, you know, and I've seen some other majestic places around the world. I'm talking about scenic places, natural wonders, beautiful seashores, sand dunes in Qatar, sand dunes United Arab Emirates, sand dunes in Mongolia. These are places I've been, and I'm left astounded, totally in awe of the great mighty creator who made all these things. Nobody can paint a more beautiful canvas than God himself, as you look at the changing colors of nature, the changing hues of nature. Every time you go there, it's a different picture. It never stays the same, right? It's really beautiful. And then spending nights outdoor allow Pathfinder to view the constellation like they have never seen before. In the city, because of the ambience light, they can't see the stars. But once you get out in the outdoors, away from the city lights, you will have a much clearer view of the constellation, which is not visible at home and not visible in the city. In the stillness of the night, you get to hear the sounds of nature, the cacophony of chirping of crickets, right? Together with the croaking of frogs and all the myriad wondrous sounds of nature. And I tell you, it is a beautiful experience to explore nature. So this is the first reason why we go camping. Number 2, camping improves health. Yes, camping has got what we call health benefits, both for the mind and for the body. It does wonders for the body and the mind, right? First of all, there is a physical demand in camping. We chop wood, we carry things, we hike, we go swimming. You know, there's a lot of physical activity in camping, and this definitely counts as exercise, which improves general health, right? Just walking that 2 kilometers to the campsite and carrying things and helping to chop wood, build tents, to cut the bamboo to build tents, that kind of stuff. All these things constitute healthy exercise that improve health. During camping, Pathfinder spends a lot of time performing all kinds of physical activity. Some of them are nature activities like hiking. Some of them are just games. And they burn a lot of calories, much more than when they were sitting in class, right? And no wonder many of the Pathfinders at the end of the day are so hungry and they can really eat during a camp. That's because they have burned much more calories outdoors than sitting in a class. And then being in the outdoors means exposure to the beautiful sunlight, where you will have a wonderful dose of vitamin D, which is so essential for the body. And a lot of people stay indoor, and that's not good. It's good to get out, right? And to draw in those wondrous energy from the sun that brings about vitamin D, okay? It is health transforming rather. And also camping, right? Especially if you plan it around a tight schedule where there's proper time for physical activity and proper time for rest. Camping helps to bring about a good night's sleep. Why? Pathfinder fall asleep, fast asleep after a full day of outdoor activity. Especially if it's a full day, you know, when they sleep soundly. And this is good. You know why? because some of them actually have sleeping disorders. Sleeping under the stars enable the Pathfinder to get in touch with what we call the natural circadian rhythm. Now, if you have studied circadian rhythm, it's a 24-hour biological clock. This is known as the body clock, and we all have that. That at certain time of the day, our body function this thing. And so at certain time of day, we are best at physical activity, best at meditation, best at this and best at that. And this is a proven fact. So the study of circadian rhythm is a worldwide thing, all right? And has a lot to do with sleeping patterns. So sleeping under the stars enable the Pathfinder to get in touch with the natural circadian rhythm, which is what I call the body clock, okay, the biological clock. A foundation for high quality sleep and good health. Many campers report better sleep cycle, which is part of the circadian rhythm. When they return home after a trip, especially if it's a 5-day camp, then they get back to the routine of a proper sleep cycle based on the natural circadian rhythm. Camping improve moods. Oh, I tell you, the laugh a lot, the lots of adventure, lots of excitement, and you won't have time to be moody, you know, to dwell on negative thought. And this becomes an antidote for depression. So which is why Pathfinder always come back from a camp feeling very happy, because it lifts up their downhearted spirit. Okay, research have linked, and this is a fact, researchers link outdoor activity to a decrease in depressive thoughts. So if many of them have very depressive thoughts due to a death in the family or certain failures or certain relational problem, bring them camping and they come back pretty much a changed person, I tell you, right? When Pathfinders spend time near a lot of trees, especially if we camp in a place where it's heavily wooded, heavily forested, they take in much more oxygen, which releases serotonin, which is known as the happy chemical. When you breathe in, deep breathing, you know, a lot of, deep, rich oxygen, it actually releases serotonin, and that improves your mood. This is known as the happy chemical. It makes you feel happy. So it's good to find a place heavily forested, all right? The body functions with lesser strain when there's plenty of oxygen outdoors. It improves blood pressure, digestion, and boosts the immunity system due to the heavy infusion of oxygen, right? Now, the third reason, now this is interesting, especially in this modern world, where our kids are growing up with all kinds of gadgets, which is extremely addictive, very bad in terms of their character development, very bad in terms of discipline. Camping allows for what we call digital detox or detoxification. Yes, camping allows Pathfinder to disconnect from technology and to reconnect with nature. So when you bring them to a place, try as far as possible to bring them to a place where there is no Wi-Fi connectivity, if possible, no phone connectivity even, right? And this will allow for a total break from technological addiction, right? This is good. This is really good. They need to have a break. Now, if you can't do that, then this is what I recommend. If you can't do that, when you go to this camp area, and unfortunately there's still Wi-Fi and there's still phone signal, you as the club director and together with counselor collect all the phones. And you're not allowed to use the phone, all right? If any emergency, the parents are supposed to call the directors or the counselor, all right? So throughout the period of the camp, they do not have access to their phone or their tablets or their computer. Now, this is what I would do, because if not, they can't experience the joy of being in the great outdoors. Now, if you camp in a place such as this, where there's no Wi-Fi, no phone connectivity, these are perfect locations where they are forced to put down their digital devices. Why? It's not working. And for that brief moment of the camp, whether 3 days or 4 days, they are able to focus on the rich meaning, on the real meaning and purpose of life. And most of all, to meditate on God, now, which they can't do due to the constant distraction from all kinds of devices, okay? Camping means leaving distraction behind. It is just them, yes. No more they and their phone, they and their computer game, they and their Nintendo games and so on. It is just them, the forest, and their fellow Pathfinders. And I tell you, they become enriched without this distraction. So I tell you, this digital detox is a very important reason for camping. And I hope as directors, make it a rule that when you go them camping, collect all the phones and tell the parents that the only person they can connect is you. So if they need messages, they're supposed to pass it phone to the director or to any of the counselors. But the Pathfinder will not have access to the phone because they are there to experience nature, all right, to connect with nature. Use the camping experience to address the problem that the Pathfinder may be having. Yes, in the wonder of nature, help them to realize there is an almighty God. That when you look at the huge, wide universe, look at the horizon, all right, out in the sea, you know, you look at the majestic towering mountains, the beautiful cloud formation. There is a mighty God who looks down from heaven, and he is able to help and address all of your problems. So use the camping experience to address whatever problem, social or whatever emotional problem the Pathfinder may be having. Number 4, camping is an occasion for adventure. In fact, this is probably one of the major reasons for camping. For those Pathfinders who are so tired of the monotony, the boredom, the absolute boredom of city life, day in, day out doing the same thing, the stress of study, the stress of that kind of city living, and desire an adventure, camping trips afford plenty of such opportunity for adventure. I tell you, plenty. More than any other reason, this is why people camp, to have an adventure in nature. Nature, you know, will offer you lots of opportunity for adventures. Why? Because no two camps are ever the same. I can tell you, no two camps are ever the same. Never. Each camp outing will bring with it different adventures. All right. Just as with the changing scenery, every camp will bring about different adventures. Okay, nothing is static in nature. Nothing. Right? If the campsite is near a lake, river, or other body of water, there are lots of fun and adventurous activity for the Pathfinder, like kayaking. All right, this is kayaking, which is different from canoeing. All right, kayaking is like this, canoeing is different. And then rafting, water tubing, where you sit on the float and you float down the gentle river, the shallow river, which I experienced when I was in America for the first time in Oshkosh. You know, I floated down the Wolf River, first time ever trying out what we call tubing. Right. Now, if you are near a place where there are rocks and a gentle cliff, and now, of course, this requires trained expert. You can teach them rock climbing or even abseiling. Now, remember, this is a highly adult supervised activity by trained professional. If you are not trained in abseiling, don't do this activity. This can be dangerous. But with trained personnel and with proper gear and safety devices, it is a fantastic adventure to do rappelling down. Rappelling is the same as abseiling, huh? Rappelling down the slope, or to do rock climbing. Number 5, camping strengthens relationship, and this is wonderful. Away from the distraction at home, camping revitalizes relationship. Yes, you find that counselors and Pathfinders are bonded much deeper because the counselor usually sleep with the Pathfinders, you know. And the directors get to know the Pathfinders better when they go camping, when they go hiking, because there's no more distraction. So camping really revitalize and unite Pathfinder and bond them together in a very deep way. When Pathfinder camp with others, they will enjoy a unique experience together that will help them keep a healthy, happy relationship. And friendship that are formed during camps will last sometime a lifetime, and in some cases last right into holy matrimony. They become soulmates or spouses. You know? They find their loved one through camps, right? Which I've seen happen more than once. You see, during camp, we have what we call face-to-face conversation, which replaces the impersonal chats through devices, through your phone, through WhatsApp or whatever Facebook or whatever. You know, here you have really face-to-face conversation, which is much deeper, right, and infinitely better than those impersonal chat through technological devices. Camping provides shared experience. It will lead to a wealth of shared memories. Yes, years later, you know, by the way, this is so true. I remember bringing my Pathfinders on the expedition in Penang in 1984. This is 1984, and to this day, when I meet with those people who are now all in their 50s or 60s, we still talk about that expedition because a lot of wonderful things happened. All right, wonderful thing happened during our expedition. Right, we had, why? Because there was shared memories, there was shared experience, and this fostered lifelong relationship. You know, I tell you, I'm just so glad for all those experiences because each of them has got a particular memory, and you share it with those campers. All right. Number 6, develop life skills. Yes, camping cultivate a spirit of self-reliance and being comfortable in the great outdoors. You know, that you don't need all those gadgets, that you can survive with the most basic of tools, right? When you learn to rough it out, okay, when you learn to rough it out, you don't need any of those technological devices, right, or modern devices. Camping requires living deliberately, examining the very essential facts of life, that all you need is oxygen, all you need is water and food, which is found plentiful in the forest if you know how to look for them. And what else do you need? And of course, you can build your own shelter from the generous forest using whatever materials you can harvest from them to build your shelters. So camping really teaches you the very essential facts of life, that this is exactly all that you need, right? That you can actually survive just in the forest without money, even for that matter. Camping requires establishing an outpost of civilization. Yes, you go into this, and therefore what you do, you establish what we call an outpost of civilization, where you build your tents, you build your cabins, and then you manage your resources. Yes, you've got to be very careful. You've got to plan your meal that you will last for the number of days you're there. You plan your water, right, or whatever, to last the number of days, right? All right. If you have bringing kerosene for cooking, then you are careful that you have enough to last throughout the whole camp. So that's what I mean by managing resources. And you learn the practicality of interdependence, or depending upon one another, right? And also dependence on nature, to know the rhythm of nature, when to do it and when not to do it. And so you learn all these things from camping. Skills like how to purify water, how to build a fire, how to use a compass and read a map enables Pathfinder to survive the elements. So this is what I always ask Pathfinder to learn. And by the way, this is something I always ask them, if possible, acquire a compass, a camping knife, and a fire starter. This is a fire starter, right? Which all Pathfinder, if possible, try to own. When you go camping, all of you bring this thing. Now, of course, with the pocket knife, you got to be very, very careful, right? Make sure it's legal. A small little pocket knife, maybe. If not, this will be supplied by the organizers, the camp organizers. Now, here's another thing. Skills that are learned from camping give Pathfinders confidence in life and self-worth, and this carry over into other aspects of their life. So that's the reason why a lot of people go camping, and from there they become much more productive executive, because the very things you learn from nature, especially of self-reliance, on resilience, that means you bounce back again even though there's disaster. All this has got a role to play in actual living, right, in the city or in your normal daily life. So you learn all these things: confidence, reliance, you know, self-worth, and resilience, and so on. And lastly, camping allows you, the Pathfinder, to experience God, a wonderful chance to experience the majesty, the presence, and the awesome love of God. Nature, first of all, offers Pathfinder what we call a sense of tranquility. It is at peace. It is peaceful. It is calm. And in that peaceful, tranquil environment, Pathfinder, for the first time, sense the presence of God much more accurately than ever before, right? And they see the wonders, the miracles of life, you know, all these things, and they see the wonders of the rain, right? The snowflakes, the sunshine, and so on. All these things does cause them to turn towards God. And I like this statement here. Notice what it says. There is no Wi-Fi in the forest, but you will have a greater what? You will find a better connection here. This better connection refers to connecting with God, okay? And of course with one another. So away from the influences and distraction of media and technology, Pathfinders are more able to focus their minds on spiritual things. And that's one of the reasons why, as I told you, when you bring them camping, remove from them all their technological devices and tell them we are here to camp, learn to do without it for the next 3 or 4 days, and this will be returned to you. If your parent need to contact you, or if you need to correct parents, you will do it through supervised, you do it through your directors or whatever, right? Now look at this statement by this person, J. Philip Newell, who is an expert in Celtic folklore and Celtic culture. This is Scotland. In the quiet of this place, in the dark of the night, I wait and watch. The sense of my heart are awake. Yes, because of the stillness. They are awake to you, O God. In the stillness of my soul, I search in the silence of my spirit. And I tell you, this is why a lot of people feel closer to God in nature than any other place. And that's a fact. In the stillness of the night, away from the hustle and bustle of the city, away from those technological devices, a Pathfinder has an opportunity to hear God's voice speaking to his or her heart. That has happened to me many times. I'm sure those of you who have gone camping, you have also had occasion to experience this wonderful moment of hearing and sensing the holy presence of God and lifting your spirit, bringing you to a higher plane, to see the bigger picture, to find courage and confidence to move on in life, right? Nature is a classroom for many wonderful spiritual lessons, and I'm going to talk about at least 4 of them, right? So right now we're going to look at what are some of the wonderful spiritual lessons we can draw from nature. The first one, the experience of harmony and order in nature. Nature is never haphazard. There is a rhythm, there is an order, there is a grand scheme, there is what I call a plan, a design. Everything is perfectly ordered. You notice none of the planets ever go out of the orbit. If they move out of the orbit, you will have planet collision, and that will be catastrophic. Can you imagine Mars suddenly move out of planet and the Mars moving out of orbit and then crashing to Earth? That will be a disaster. Far from it, all those planets move according to their places in nature. All of them has their particular place, right? And this is the wonder of nature, and there is this wonderful design. Now, there's a reason why I'm showing you this particular seashell. Anybody know what's the name of this seashell? This is the famous chambered Nautilus. If you cut it open, this is exactly how it looks like, right? Each of these here is a seal chamber. So in other words, this one and this one, there's no door, there's no hole at all. All these are seal chambered. In other words, once it starts from here and then it grow and grow, and each time it grow, you close the last door. Once it grow, it grows further, it closes the last door. So each of these are seal chambers. So all right, and then look at how beautiful this architecture is. It is a squid that lives inside here. Okay, just to let you know. So it's not a fish or snail. It is a squid that lives inside here, right? It's very interesting. Now let me tell you about this. That the growth of this spiraling growth is actually based on mathematical formula. And today we're going to talk about this thing, the Fibonacci sequence. God's fingerprint in nature, where you see this formula of God all over nature, and that, in my mind, establishes and confirms the fact that they are all testify to the one God. How else to explain the same mathematical sequence in all of nature? Okay, watch this little video, right? By the way, before that, is the sound on? Let me check whether the sound is on. I forgot to check. Where is the share screen? Oh, suddenly I can't find the share screen. Oh boy. Oh, hold on. Where is, okay, all right, it's working. All right, so let me come back to this. I want to make sure the sound is on. Okay, everybody, watch and enjoy this video, okay?
Every day we see patterns in the world around us. They testify to the careful design and hard work that produced them. But what about the patterns that are not made by man, but appear in the natural world? What do they reveal? Consider the snowflake. These tiny crystals are formed when water vapor in a cloud condenses directly into ice. As the crystals grow, delicate and beautiful patterns emerge. Look more closely at the pattern within a single snowflake. The crystalline arms branch, then branch again and again at increasingly smaller sizes. Mathematicians studying this concept of self-similarity use the term fractal to describe a shape that has a consistent, repeated pattern at multiple scales. Where else can fractal patterns be seen in the natural world? Trees can demonstrate a degree of self-similarity. The trunk splits into limbs, which split into branches, then twigs, and so on. We see a similar type of fractal pattern in the leaves of a fern. A different type of pattern, but one that is also a fractal, can be seen in the shell of the chambered nautilus. As it grows, the nautilus builds new, larger chambers and seals off the older, smaller ones that it no longer needs. The result is a spiral that is fractal in nature, maintaining a similar shape as it increases in size. Natural spiral patterns of this type can be observed in many places, from the cloud formations of a hurricane to tiny shells on the beach, from the arrangement of the stars in a galaxy to the seeds on a sunflower head. What causes these spiral patterns? In the case of the sunflower, it has to do with the specific angle at which new plant growths form. This angle, approximately 137.5 degrees, is sometimes called the golden angle. It results in an ideally compact arrangement with no wasted space and creates distinct spiral patterns. If the sunflower grew not at the golden angle, but at a different angle, for example 140 degrees, we would see radial arms instead, and the seed arrangement would not be as efficient. As we look even closer, we can discern a fascinating mathematical relationship between this golden angle and a series of numbers called the Fibonacci sequence. In this progression, each number is determined by adding the previous two numbers together. Interestingly, these Fibonacci numbers can often be observed in plants. This sunflower has 34 spirals in one direction and 55 going the other way. Both of these numbers are in the Fibonacci sequence. A pineapple will often have 8 or 13 spirals. Flowers with a spiral growth pattern tend to have a Fibonacci number of petals. Why are these numbers significant? As the Fibonacci sequence progresses, the relationship between successive numbers comes closer and closer to defining the exact value of the golden angle. This intriguing mathematical relationship between the golden angle of plant growth and the number of resulting spirals reminds us that the patterns we see in the natural world are not merely accidental. Each one is a reflection of order and careful design. As we take time to examine these patterns more closely, we are filled with a sense of wonder at the workmanship of their designer, Jehovah God. For his invisible qualities are clearly seen from the world's creation onward, because they are perceived by the things made.
Right. I hope you enjoyed this video, but what this video just teaches is that indeed this world is not haphazard or random. So the idea of the Big Bang Theory that all this was just an accident, it can't be. It's perfectly planned, perfectly designed, and we can still see that order, that mathematical formula that governs all of God's created universe, both under the sea, on earth, and above the earth, and even in the starry heavens, the stars, the constellation, they all follow the same so-called Fibonacci principle, or the golden ratio. So if you go to the internet, you'll find plenty of videos that talk about the Fibonacci sequence. And many people call this the fingerprint of God, his thumbprint all over nature, the same sequence that's used in all of creation. Now, the next thing you also learn from God's great nature, beside order and harmony, is the wonder of God's great creativeness. How incredibly beautiful it is. You know, I am so thankful I had a chance to visit Papua New Guinea many years ago. I was a speaker for a convention there, and I spent 1 week there. And over there, I was brought to a park where I saw the most beautiful birds in the world. And this kind of birds are known as the birds of paradise. The birds of paradise are only found in 2 countries. 1, Papua New Guinea, and 2, in Papua. Oh, the old name is Irian Jaya, which is part of Indonesia. So I want you to watch this short video on the beautiful birds of paradise. I won't go to all 9 minutes, just about 4 minutes or 3 minutes, okay? Watch this incredible video. Elderly Papua bringing his family and tribesmen into the forest so that they learn to appreciate the wonders of the birds of paradise. And he is speaking Indonesian because it's Papua, okay? Tanah Papua, or the land of the Papua.
Anak-anak, sekarang kami sudah di hutan kita. Kenapa kita datang seperti ini? Supaya kalian tahu ke depan kita.
See one of the beautiful birds of paradise, so incredibly great. The most beautiful birds in the world. Now you'll see at least 6 or 7 different types. Now look at this, look at how they're done, look at how they're done. Look at how they're done. Not only do they have beautiful plumage, they also have beautiful dance patterns. Look at that. These are all part of mating rituals. Every one of them has got a different dance. And also beautiful sound. Oh, look at that one. The music of the paradise. This guy is Michael Jackson. Okay, right. This is just to show you how incredible God's creativity is, as seen by the beautiful birds of paradise. Okay, if you go, what do you call that, snorkeling, you can also see the beautiful wonders of marine life. Okay, so all this testify to the wonder of God's great creativity. You know, he paints with a beautiful paintbrush, beautiful colors, splash of rainbow colors all over nature. Right, the third thing that you want to talk about is the power of adaptability. Yes, you see this in nature. God has put in all of created life the power to adapt, and this is one of the lessons we can learn, to adapt to the changing season. You see, right now I'm 64, right? I have to learn to adapt to some new realities of my life, the reality of being retired, the reality of getting old, and all of us have to learn to adapt with the changing seasons of our life, just as nature does. You see, the same tree changes during winter, you see, but it's the same tree, and this is where we must also learn that as nature adapts, we must also learn to be adaptable. Watch this video about the kinds of adaptation in nature. This is an interesting video about adaptation.
Every day, all around us, we can see examples of adaptations within our own species, within species of other animals, and within members of other kingdoms. Put simply, an adaptation is a feature of an organism that gives it some sort of benefit or advantage. They could help it build a shelter, find and hunt food, protect itself, or compete against others for mates, food, and resources. Adaptations can help it in a range of aspects relating to its survival. Adaptations can be categorized into three main groups: structural or physical, behavioral, and physiological. Let's now look at the differences between these groups by looking at some examples. Structural adaptations, also known as physical adaptations, are physical features of the body that assist in some way with survival or reproduction. Some obvious examples include having horns to defend against predators and to compete against others, having fins for aquatic animals who need to swim efficiently, and having armor to defend against predators. Having camouflage that helps you blend in with your environment is also a very useful adaptation to have. It can help you hide from predators who might be looking for a quick snack. It can also make your prey harder to see you, which allows you to get in close and get a sneak attack. A structural adaptation of a lot of plants is to have brightly coloured flowers, which attracts insects and assists with the pollination process. Behavioural adaptations are things that the organism does which gives it some sort of benefit, and for the most part these are innate behaviours, which means they are born with the ability and the drive to do them. Herding is a great example of a behavioural adaptation. Not only does it help you find food easier as a group, but it also helps you spot predators and raise the alarm. Socialisation is another important behaviour that's observed in a lot of species. It allows behaviours to be taught to other members of the same species, it allows opportunities for relationships to develop, and it promotes cooperation. Setting a trap, like a spider spinning a web, is a great strategy to try and catch some food. Being the most intelligent invertebrate, the octopus is capable of mimicking other animals in order to get closer to its prey. Physiological adaptations are things that the organism's body does without necessarily having to consciously tell it to do so. For example, a distinctive feature of mammals is that the females produce milk, which is a nutrient-rich food source for their offspring. It doesn't choose to produce the milk, but it just does, and in doing so, that's helping the survival of the next generation. Producing poison or venom is another example of a physiological adaptation. A snake or a stingray producing venom and being able to inject that into its prey will help it catch it. And a toad's body producing poison will help deter its predators. In order to summarise what we've covered today, have a look at this snail. I want you to think of a structural adaptation, a behavioural adaptation, and a physiological adaptation.
Learn from this, okay? What adaptation is, and you find
Here are some examples that you could have had.
All over nature, right? Okay. Now, another wonderful lesson, and this is the one, the last lesson, with regards to what we can learn from nature. The beautiful spiritual lesson is the joy of cooperative relationship. And Pathfinders learn how important it is for us to cooperate each other. In nature, this is known as mutual symbiosis, right? Major symbiosis, okay? And watch this. The most famous example will be that of the clownfish and the poisonous anemone. Now, this anemone is very poisonous. You will get very stung. Any fish other than the clownfish will be stung and you'll die. But the clownfish has the ability to survive, and they can go in and out, and they have to draw in prey because those predators want to eat them. They will dash inside, and the foolish predator also dash inside, and they get stung. So the enemy gets to eat that prey, as well as the clownfish also join in the meal. And this is a classic example, probably one of the most famous example of what we call cooperative relationship. All right, mutual symbiosis. Now watch this video to get an idea. It's just 1 minute 59 seconds.
Clownfish are shy and aggressive. Two qualities you might not expect in one of the most photographed fish in the ocean. They defend their home, their castle, thus stinging an enemy from all invaders, despite its formidable defenses. You see, the enemy extends hundreds of slightly sticky, stinging tentacles that sway in the current in a bid to capture unsuspecting prey, and this discourages invaders. Most sea creatures will avoid them, because its sting packs quite the wallop, and I wouldn't want to get eaten by an enemy. But this is the place the clownfish chooses for its home. Even though the anemone offers a safe haven for the clownfish and those eggs, divers will see them ever vigilant, patrolling their home like castle guards to fend off any outsiders looking to make a meal out of their eggs. They might just be one of the most vigilant and aggressive fish in the ocean, living in a house that tries to eat other fish. Clownfish are usually found in small family groups, and are native to the Indian and Pacific Oceans, including the Great Barrier Reef and the Red Sea. They form symbiotic mutualistic relationships with the sea anemone, offering parasite removal and nutrient delivery services in exchange for the anemone's protection. They truly make great house guests, keeping the place quite tidy, and I love to photograph them. I think the clownfish is one of my favorite fish in the ocean. If you would like to see future videos like this one.
Now, remember, this is probably the most famous example of what we call symbiosis. Okay, the symbiotic relationship between the clownfish and the anemone is classic, right? How each help each other, right? The anemone protects the clownfish, and the clownfish, in a sense, brings dinner or meal or lunch for the anemone. All right. Now, remember, this is the clownfish. Now, of course, due to Disneyland, many people call this Nemo. This is the so-called famous Nemo. All right. Okay. So, all these lessons from nature help to foster a keener sense of closeness to God, the Creator. So, if you bring them camping, look for all these themes, this precious lesson. And I tell you, they will never forget what they've learned. Look out for these great themes that you can exploit on to teach the wonders of God's love, God's majestic power, of His protection, of His care, and of His sense of order and harmony. All right. Now, this is where I want to talk about what I call a wow event. Now, I'm not sure whether you are acquainted with this term. With deliberate, careful planning, with much prayer, the activities of the camp can lead to what we call a wow moment. Make your camp into a wow event, which the Pathfinder will never forget for as long as they live, because that camp changed their life forever, just as that camporee in Thailand in 1974 changed my life forever, where I felt so close to God and so close with Pathfinder. That's why even to this day, I'm still a Pathfinder at my age, despite being retired. You see, it was a wow event. So please, with careful planning, with deliberate planning, with much prayer, you can turn the activity of a camp to a wow event, to lead up to this momentous climax, this memorable climax, especially with the special effect of the campfire. You know, look at the majestic glow, you know, it's very magical. Coupled with an inspiring, soul-stirring message, coupled with powerful testimonies from people whose life has been changed, whose prayer has been answered, whose life has been turned around for the better, coupled with beautiful spiritual music, Pathfinders can be led to decide for Christ or commit themselves to Christian service, which in my case did happen to me. As I told you, nature is where God intends us for us to be, because there you have a close encounter with God as you will never experience God otherwise. Now, I want to move very quickly to camping and outdoor education. Today, more and more people are talking about outdoor education. This is the notion that often real learning takes place in the outdoor and not so much in the classroom, and it's not always academic results that determine a person's success. Much of what you learn from the outdoor can be replicated and translated in real life to help you. So let's look at what those lessons are. Now, before that, being in the great outdoor allows for opportunity to develop greater awareness of themselves and of other people, about relationship. Through meaningful outdoor activity, most important things can be learned outdoors, all right? And I will share with you some of the great lessons that we can learn from outdoors, okay? Hold on first, right? Number one, teamwork. Yes, teamwork. Through outdoor activities involving working together, Pathfinders learn the importance of teamwork, that you will only succeed if you work together. United we stand, divided we fall. So it's very important to learn to work together. So one of the great lessons in outdoor education, which you can't really teach in textbook or in the classroom setting, but in nature, is that of teamwork. Do that by assigning roles and responsibility based on the individual strength. So if you're the leader, say, hey, you do this and you do that, and this, all of us has got a role, a part to play in that particular project. And when each do their part as a team, results will happen, success will come about. Okay, so that's where we teach the notion of teamwork. Number two, you learn leadership from outdoor activity. Yes, create activity that bring out the leader in the Pathfinder. Yes, something which challenges out to dare to go first, to dare to set an example for the rest to follow. And in many of these activity, which helps to cultivate leadership, you will bring out the leader in those Pathfinders, okay? Now, along with the concept of leadership, you must also teach them the concept of fellowship. Fellowship is the notion that everybody's contribution in the group is valuable, and not just the leader. Just as good as it is good to be a leader, you must also learn to be a follower. You can't be a leader unless you are first a follower. So fellowship is the notion that everybody's contribution is just as important as the leader. Then the next lesson, the outdoor education thing we can teach, is the idea of resilience. Resilience is the ability to overcome challenges. Though you had a setback, then you have a misfortune, though you have got some big problem, but you bounce up. You may be down, but you are not out, okay? You may be down, but you rise up again. And that's the meaning of the word resilient, right? So give them such opportunity where they learn to overcome challenges. And to tell the truth, if you look very carefully, the outdoor environment does present a number of challenges, such as the what I call the inclement weather. They can turn bad suddenly. So how do you handle this? Now, this is an opportunity to learn to be resilient, to learn to cope and to bounce back against adversity, against bad weather. Or the river may become too deep to cross. Again, what you do? This can be turned into powerful outdoor education teams. This forces us, or the Pathfinder, to learn or to deal with obstacles. And this is why I said nature becomes a powerful classroom, right? Then the next lesson, environmental awareness. Again, this is best taught outside rather than inside the class. It is to understand the fragility of our environment and the importance of its protection. Bring them out to see this dump, and they will realize, my, the beautiful earth has been destroyed. And and then, I mean, first bring them out to a beautiful campsite with all the wonders of nature, and then you bring them to this dump, and they will begin to see just how much damage people have done to the environment, and they will learn the importance of what we call environmental consciousness. They understand environment issues like polluted air, polluted water, all right, the contamination of earth, and all the other pollutants, including noise pollution and so on, which are all harmful and impact human negatively, especially that of global warming, all right? Camping, to tell the truth, inspire respect for nature. And it teaches us where we fit in the grand scheme of life. You are part of nature, all right? You are part of God's great created nature. So be respectful. You are, when you go to nature, you are an invitee. You are a visitor to God's great classroom. So you are not the boss. You are but an invited guest to the beautiful world of nature. And so you must remember to be humble and to remember your place in the great scheme of things. And look at this beautiful thought. I like this particular thing. Camping humble us. When you look at this gigantic tree, you are but a small little fly. And you are humbled by the magnificence of these huge trees that have lasted hundreds of years. Camping humble us as you realize that these things were there long before you were born, and they'll be long there even after you're long gone. And we are confronted with our frailty, of our limitation as we face, in the face of natural world. And you become humble, you become respectful of nature. Now, this is all part of what I call outdoor education, all right? Lastly, social skills. Group activities encourage Pathfinders to interact with one another and build new friendship. Yes, plenty of opportunity to interact with one another. Right, now with that, I want to talk about the practicality. How do we plan for good camp out, and what are the guidelines for good camp out? So let me first of all talk about the guidelines for a good camp out. There are 6 things I want to emphasize. First, and most important, campers and the staff, especially you officer, recognize that God is with them. So when you plan a camp, recognize that you are entering into God's world, unpolluted world, and God is the teacher, God is the master. Be very conscious of the presence of God. That alone is the starting point of a good camp out. You are entering to God's world, you are an invited guest. Number 2, plan your program so well that there's very little dead time. Now, dead time means between here and here, there was nothing planned, and that can be quite dangerous, right? Unsupervised dead time can result in tragedy. So you've got to be very careful to plan it as such that there's very little dead time. And if there is dead time, make sure that there's someone watching out. If not, they can get into danger or big trouble. I did mention this some time ago. In camping, remember the 3 S, the 3 very important S word. Sanitation, that means toilet, bathroom, water. This is very important to prevent outbreak of disease and epidemic. Safety are the things they're using safe, right? Are you careful in storing your gas stove, your gas tank, your kerosene, and so on? This is a safety concept. This is very, very important. If you're near a water source, have you so-called mark off those dangerous areas they cannot enter, and that they can only go swimming at a certain time, and that is a supervised adult activity. And security, around the clock, you have people protecting the campsite to prevent intruders from harming your Pathfinders. So the 3 S, sanitation, safety, and security, always factor this when you plan a camp. Do you have this thing in all thought of? Sanitation, safety, and security. Then insist on absolute consideration for the other campers' comfort. When you camp, be respectful that we are just separated by a thin canvas wall. You can hear what the other person is saying. And some of them are like sleepers. So please observe the sleeping schedule. right? Even if you can't sleep, keep absolutely quiet, be considerate. You learn to be considerate because this is not a thick concrete wall. You can hear each other, right? So don't simply shine your torchlight in somebody's tent. It disturbs people's sleep. So you learn consideration. So insist on consideration for one another. And then, very important, everybody take part in all activities. Yes, this is important. When you plan the camp, all take part. You don't have people sleeping in the tent. You will destroy the camp. Everybody should take part in all activity. And lastly, camp rules must be obeyed, especially safety rules. That this swimming is supervised activity. Do not enter the water unless at the right time, unless adult supervision. Do not try that high element, that rope climb or that abseiling on your own. All right. So this is very important. All camp rules must be obeyed. Do not go to the toilet by yourself at night, but always with an adult accompanying you to the toilet and so on. All right. All right. Now let's now look at very important thing. Remember, variety is the spice of life. Yes, when you plan, don't plan the same thing as what you did last year. Every time you have a camp, introduce something new. Every time you have a camp out, try to think of an exciting, never done before thing. And this idea of variety being the spice of life will make your Pathfinder love you. Because nobody like what I call SOS, S-O-S. SOS stands for same old stuff. That will kill the interest of the Pathfinder. But when you understand the variety is the spice of life, and that each time you plan a camp, you have a pleasant surprise or something so challenging, so interesting, they will love you for that. All right. Now, how do you plan? These are the steps to follow in planning. Number one, notify the church board. This is where you start. The church board must be notified of your date so that it doesn't clash with major event. Notify the parents so the parents plan their schedule around it so their children are free to attend the camp so they will not go overseas for holiday or whatever. And very important, listen carefully, submit your camp program and what I call the camp information sheet to the church board. The camp information sheet will list down the following. Now, please remember this, even though I didn't write it down. The camp information sheet will say who are the leaders bringing the group, who are the members going for the camp, what date are you going, and what date are you expected to be back? What are the things you are bringing into the camp, the first aid box, the walkie-talkie, or whatever, right? All right, and what is the name of the campsite? All right, all this information sheet should be submitted to the church board. In the event of you getting lost, the church board know because you have submitted the camp information sheet, so they know where to ask the search and rescue team to look for you. So don't go camping and not fail to provide the camp information sheet of all those important things. Date of entering the camp and date expected to return. Who is going? Who are the officers? What did you bring along? All right, and those vital information. Go for a reason. Have clear goals and objectives. So before you go with your staff, write down why are we having this camp? What is the theme and what do we hope to do there? We will do this honor. We will do this outdoor activity, and that we will teach them to be disciplined, to learn to sleep early, whatever. All these objectives must be planned and then evaluate at the end. Did you reach those goals and arrive at those objectives? Book campground early. Now remember, you are not the only one who want to camp there. There are other people. So if you plan well, you would have confirmed, you will have a confirmed booking of that campground. Or if it is a private property and you know the person, seek permission of the property owner to camp there. Never camp in an area which is personal property when you have no permission. You will get into serious legal trouble. You must always make sure you have the permission to camp there. Campsite facility and hiking trail are to be inspected personally before camp out. Have what we call a recce. A recce means a reconnaissance. You have actually gone there, try it out, test out all the facility, see for yourself firsthand whether it's a good place. Try out all the facility, all the toilets are working, all the high element, those adventurous facility are all working. The hiking trail is safe. You know, you have actually tried it out. So never do what I call a virgin run. Do something new without actually first doing a recce. That is actually extremely foolish advice. When you go camping, you must personally be there. See for yourself firsthand how it feels to be there. What are the challenges? What are the problems to anticipate? Now, very important, I can't emphasize this over enough. Every camper must be given a black and white copy of the camp program, right? If you want to use digital, then make sure all of them have a, but the problem with digital, that means they have to use their digital devices. So I prefer you to print out the camp program. Why? In the camp program, you spell out very clearly in pure, simple English, the rules and regulations, especially governing safety, water safety, right? That swimming is a supervised activity. You cannot go there by yourself. You cannot go to the toilet by yourself. Now, those rules and safety and regulations are meant to protect, and also to protect you from lawsuit. If you didn't print it there and a hazard or mishap takes place, you can be sued because you did not specify, and there was no black and white instances where you have warned the Pathfinder to observe those rules. So I can tell you, please do not spare on producing a camp program, and never forget to state clearly the rules and regulations. This is to protect you from lawsuit if there is unfortunately a case of misadventure, a case of disaster, which I pray not. Right, so this is very important. And then design the campsite layout. Now, before you go there, you've got to plan where to put the kitchen, where to put the toilet. Right, now let's look at this. The camp director goes there early, so he marks out where the following facility will be. Where is the camp entrance? Where is the kitchen area? Where is the general perimeter? Where is the fence? Where the campsite is, the fence? Where are the tents for the boys to be, the girls to be? Where are the toilet and bathing facilities to be? Now look at this, for example, right? Oh yeah, flags should be posted at the camp entrance. This is how you know that is the entrance. The flag post must be at the very entrance, and the unit guidon in front of each of the tents. The unit guidon in front of each of the tent. All right, now here is a picture, a graphic display of how. Now here you see the general perimeter. You see the perimeter here. All right, marked by this thing. Now there is a danger here. Now listen carefully to my advice. Huh? If you put a stake here, another stake here, and you tie a rope here, and then here and here to mark off your perimeter, remember at night this can't be seen. And people will trip and they'll fall and they will hurt themselves. So what you should do all along this line, if you are doing this as the perimeter, tie little ribbons or little flags or whatever, tie ribbons or things so that, you know, it's fluttering. And so people will see the thing that's fluttering. So all along the perimeter, you must have things fluttering, okay? Either laminated paper or whatever, or flags or whatever, or ribbons. So remember, you've not to trip over, right? As you can see, here's the green entrance, and here's the entrance, you can see, and the flagpole is here. Remember, it's always near the thing, right? Here is the washing area, the tent for boys, the tent for girls. All right, by the way, there's also a store tent, the general meeting tent, all right? The chopping area where all the firewood are stored, right? The washing area, and where you what do you call that? Discard what I call those garbage or whatever, unfinished food, which must be probably disposed of. If not, unwanted animals will come at night. Okay. Now here's another picture of the layout. Okay. Okay. So these are just to help you where to put all these things. Now remember, these are just ideas. These are just ideas. Now, by the way, watch very carefully this toilet. Did you notice the design? Right, and I'll show you again about this later on again. All right, watch carefully again this thing. Okay, all right. Now, things that you need to consider when planning for a camp out. Transportation, yes, especially some of these places rugged, so you may have to have 4-wheel drive to bring people into campsite, or at least from there to there, people have to use bicycle or whatever. So consider the transportation to get to the campsite. Consider the tents, all right, to accommodate campers comfortably, right? And also the general tent for the meeting place and so on, right? And then general camping gear such as axe, the so-called spotlights, the loud hailer, and these are all the general camping gear that you will need, right? And the flags and so on. first aid kit. Now, this is very important. You must bring a first aid kit. Anybody who bring Pathfinder camping without first aid kit, you will be liable. If there's a mishap, a disaster, you will be in trouble because you don't even have a first aid kit. So this is standard. And you must also know where is the nearest medical facility. You already know if there's an incident from here to the nearest medical facility, it will take 10, 15 minutes or 20 minutes. This is important. And in fact, if in a big camporee, such as those I've done, international camporee, I would have notified the nearest hospital that we are having this international camp, so that if in case we have emergency, please be aware that we will have international campers that may require your medical assistance. I inform the nearest hospital nearby for all the international camporee that are organized. Consider who are the camp personnel, who is the cook, who is the security, who is the discipline drill master, and the hiking coordinator, or honors instructor, and so on. Plan the food and the camp menu, okay? Now make sure you plan it well, so because some food are perishable. You must remember food cannot be kept too long. If kept too long, you will lead to food contamination and food poisoning. So this is something that requires a lot of planning, and make sure there's also water supply, all right? Now, I'm finished this section by saying, these are the basic components needed for good campsite. There are about 6 things I want you to remember. The basic component needed for good campsite. Number 1, what is that? You will need fresh water availability. Yes, there must be fresh water, okay? Where it's clean, which you can boil. Now, never drink water, even though how clean it looks like. There may be the presence of bacteria, which can be very dangerous. All drinking water should be boiled. Water can be used for cleaning, bathing, but for water, drinking water, it must be boiled. So first of all, is there a water source? Okay, first question, right? Very important. Number 2, ample firewood supply. That is provided you are not using gas stove to cook. Then you need firewood for your campfire. So is there ample firewood supply? Number 3, good sanitation. Are there toilets enough for all campers? All right. Right now, this is a mixed toilet, as you can see. Now, this is important, and it cannot be too far away, right? So this is important. Now, sometimes you may not have this, so you have to make your own, what I call makeshift temporary toilet, and this is how it should look like. Remember the picture that you saw earlier, that you saw just now? You'll see exactly one that just like this. So I didn't realize that this guy, that both of us have the same idea, right? Now here you can see how it look like, okay, from a 3D. Now here you look from a bird's eye view. What you need to do is to fence up here, 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 and here, right? And this is where you have your toilet, or this is where you can have your, you can have a big bucket on a little, on the, what do you call that? You hang up the bucket, and from there you can have a shower. So it can be a toilet as well as a shower facility. And this is the entrance. Now, remember, there's no door at all. If you want, you can make a door, but in most cases, there is no door because these are meant to be easy go in, easy come out. But how do you know there's somebody using? Very simple. As you go in, the moment you see something hanging here, this person is using the toilet. Either his clothing is here or her towel is here or whatever, then you know that please do not go in, okay? So this is how a makeshift toilet or bathroom looks like. You will not be able to see the person naked or whatever. Why? This protects him. So you should not enter further. The moment you see something here, or even here for that matter, it means somebody is there. Or at least when you go in, say, hey, is anybody inside? So this is how it looks like. At the end of the camp, just bury it with soil, the duck up toilet, okay? Right. Make sure there's ample tents and shelter, all right? And make sure you have separate accommodation for boys and girls. This is important, okay? Make sure they're separated. Boys and girls should never be in the same tent. Now, you have to make sure that in that campsite, the people, that it is allowed to have campfire, allowed to have camp cooking. Don't take this for granted. You have to check with authority whether it is allowed. Now, I have been to some camporee in, I remember the one in Denmark. Because of the dry season, it was not allowed. And then later on, when it seems like the weather was better, then came the announcement, now we have been permitted to have our campfire. So even Europe, they're very careful, right, to observe this. So permission for fire building and camp cooking, this is important, right? Oh, have I come to the last part? Yeah, I have come to the last part, all right.